I turn now to the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Forbes, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank all of you for your testimony. And I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to try to be succinct and ask you in your answers to do so as well. And Mayor, I know you've studied this issue a lot. You've prepared for this hearing, or you wouldn't be here. And let me just ask you, if I gave you this pen and asked you to go back and take as long as you needed and draft this comprehensive piece of legislation, you brought it back before us and we passed it out of here and we passed it out of the Senate and the President signed it into law. We all know that there will be some people that disagree with portions of it, some people who try to circumvent it, some people who break it. I want you to fast forward now. You're a young man, and 10 years from now we ask you to come back and testify before us. And we found that the people that circumvented that law were either 10 or 10 million. Should we be prepared to draft a new path of citizenship for those 10 million people that circumvented the law that you wrote?
Thank you very much for the question. And I know that this has been a concern with regard to the 1986 law. And in fact, I'm very pleased that the bipartisan effort so far, what's been proposed by the President and the Senate, includes stronger interior enforcement.
Yeah, and I don't want to interrupt you. You can put all you want on the record, but I'm saying you've written the law. We do everything we can, despite our best efforts. There will be people who break that law and circumvent it. It may not be 10 million, it may be a million, but for those individuals, should we be expected to, 10 years from now, write a new path of citizenship for those individuals, however many there might be?
With all due respect, Representative, I just don't think that that's a question that can be answered right now. It's such a hypothetical question. I believe that if the Congress does an excellent job now...
Mayor, are you saying that you don't believe that there will be any people that circumvent the law, no matter how well we write it? Is that your testimony?
No, I wouldn't disagree with you that there may be folks who circumvent it.
And as to those individuals, should we be prepared at some point in time, 10 years down the road or whenever, to be prepared to write a new path of citizenship for them?
I believe that that's a question, hopefully, that won't have to be answered in any significant measure by Congress in the future if you do the job right this time.
So you believe if we do the job right, there will not be individuals who circumvent that law down the road? And the reason I say it, Mayor, is we've got to ask those tough questions. It's easy to talk about comprehensive reform if we don't ask and answer those tough questions. Let me give you another one. The ranking member said there's so much that we agree on, and I agree with that comprehensively. But we can't just take a concept like comprehensive and not look at the detail, because sometimes the devil's in the details. When you talk about a lot of individuals who are here and not documented or here legal or illegally, one of the things for us is most of them are hardworking, good people. You would attest to that, but not all of them. And there are a few of them here. For example, testimony we've had before this committee of the rise in gang activity that we've had in the country. We had testimony that 85% of one gang, the individuals here, were here illegally. Now, as to just that group, I want to ask you this question. If we have someone here who is here illegally, and not one of those hardworking people, but someone who's a member of a violent criminal gang, should we be prepared to deport them before they commit a criminal act, or should they also have a path to citizenship?
Thanks for the question. I think there's agreement across the board that if someone has committed a violent crime...
No, before they've committed a violent criminal act, they are here illegally, and they are a member of a violent criminal gang. Should we be able to deport them before they commit that violent criminal act, or should they also be able to have a path to citizenship?
You mean if you determine them guilty before they've committed a crime?
Not guilty. I'm saying they're here illegally. They didn't come here illegally. And they acknowledge and we prove that they are a member of a violent criminal gang. Should we be able to remove them from the country before they commit another, or before they commit a violent criminal act?
I would just say that I believe that ensuring that America is free of folks who have committed violent crimes, that is and should be a priority. With regard to the hypothetical of people who might commit a crime or might not commit a crime, I readily concede that I'm not in law enforcement. I'm not a technical expert in that regard. But I do believe that folks who have committed a violent crime should be deported.
And Mayor, the reason I tell you is this exact situation happened in Boston, and a young girl was raped and brutally beaten for individuals that were here illegally, member of violent criminal gangs, and temporary protected status protected them. So at some point